I'm from Marine Engineering Private Limited, Singapore. Just a brief introduction of our company. We are a methanol dual fuel solution provider. Basically, me and my team are pioneers in methanol dual fuel technology. Having said that, we cannot emphasize enough the training and the importance of which, especially now, the industry is facing a change. And this change is something like a drastic change wherein we are looking into somewhat extinction of diesel fuel into alternative fuels. The maritime industry is a backbone of the global trade and transportation. It is currently having all those concerns, and the most pressing concern is the carbon emission and its impact to the environment. Which are these challenges? Primarily, we have the CO2 emissions. CO2 emissions are actually the main contributor in the global warming. We also have methane, we also have nitrous oxide, we also have sulfur dioxide. But all of these other emissions have been already addressed and are not as significant as the carbon emission. Now, what is the industry doing about it? What are the regulatory frameworks? Most of these emissions are under and governed by MARPOL Annex 6. And most recently, we have the IMO strategy on greenhouse gases emissions. They were set initially in year 2018. And then most recently, we have the MEPC 80, where we have the revised targets whereby by 2030, we should have 30% reduction in emission, 70% by 2040, and net zero by 2050. It also has been introduced the ship energy efficiency existing index, or EEXI. We also have the CII. IMO also introduced the DCS, or data collection system, and also we have some regional interpretation of this, or version of these regulations, which is like the EU MRE and etc. Now, talking about the change and greenhouse gases strategies and how does it reflect with our training and development. We are all experienced with the conventional technology whereby we are burning diesel oil or fossil-based fuel to run and operate our vessels. Now, the change is we are moving from the conventional to alternative fuel to address the carbon emission. We are, like myself, I was a chief engineer on board, and I believe there are a lot of chief engineers here. But who among us actually have the experience with the new fuel? Not so many. I don't think we have anyone here. If there is, please raise your hand, and I will be very glad to talk with you. Okay. Now, I would like to compare the ship into an F1 car. Safety is paramount. We all know that. I don't want to emphasize so much of that because we all know that already. We both rely in technology. And technology is constantly moving, constantly improving. We have to have very well-trained crew. We have to have, like an F1, you have to have a very well-trained, well-paid driver, a professional driver. You can have an F1 car, but you cannot put a Grab driver there. Otherwise, it won't work like an F1 car. You're not gonna harness its full potential. We are always striving for continuous improvement. We are always in a race mode. We are always competing against each other. And last but not the least, it's a huge business. We always have to deliver the goods on the table. We have to deliver the goods from point A to point B. Now, why did I set F1 car as an example? If we invest on technology, we might as well invest our crew and our crew training. Why? Who's gonna run your ship without a crew? We are looking so much into which fuel will be the future. We're looking at ammonia, methanol, hydrogen, LNG, all of this fuel. But who's gonna run them? Everyone is talking about ammonia. No. But who among us is willing to join an ammonia vessel, knowing the safety and risk of ammonia? I was a chief engineer, I was a tankerman for 16 years. If you ask me to go on an ammonia vessel right now, no way. You have to motivate me, you have to convince me, you have to train me, and you have to pay me well. Okay. At this point, looking into the technology is one thing, but the other thing is you have to look in the crew training. And at this point, I can see a crisis in the future with that regards. Key aspects of upskilling crew for shipping decarbonization. We have to identify the gaps. Yeah, there's a huge gap right there. And we have to bridge those gaps. Not exactly, but it's giving the idea. We as first movers in methanol dual fuel technology, as I mentioned, I was actually fortunate enough to be the first chief engineer in the world to run a methanol-powered tanker. That was 2016 with my good colleague here, Captain Archie, who was my captain during that time. So we as Filipinos must be proud that we are one of the first or the pioneers. You've been seeing a lot in the news, Maersk, Laura Maersk. Okay, they have done pretty good stuff and claiming all these first, but it's not first in terms of running the technology. It's first for green methanol. But if you're talking about technology, it doesn't matter what color of methanol it is the technology. So what are the gaps? We feel like there's lack in regulatory framework in comparison with the technology. One good example is we have had the first container vessel taking bunkers, methanol bunkers in Singapore a few months ago. There was an operation, but there was no regulation. So what was the basis of the operation? It was based on best practice and whatever experience they have within the table. But there was no regulation. Now, how can you expect to create a training module without the concrete regulations? It's not possible. Even if you have the regulation, if you don't have the expertise to develop this process, it's not going to work. So first, you have to have the concrete regulatory framework, and then you have to have the expertise to develop training courses based on the regulations. Without experience or without actual exposure to these technologies, how can you rely on your instructors? How can you provide credible training if your instructors don't have a clue or don't have an idea or don't have an experience with all these technologies? It's not possible. There are no infrastructures today because, again, there are no rules. So for us, from the training side, from the manning side, even from the university side, we have to start developing all these infrastructures, including simulators, AR, VR, and all these things. We need to motivate our crew as well. We need to tell them that this is the future. We need to tell them that the change is here and there's no way around it. How to reach those gaps? Regulators must set clear guidelines and achievable goals. You cannot just dream about something, but then you're not doing anything about it. And you have to set a timeline where the industry can adapt and achieve those goals that you set. There has to be collaboration between stakeholders, whereby the limitation of such entity can be compensated by another entity. You have to motivate professional development not only on the sea staff but also on the shore staff. So you can provide support for the crew whenever there's concerns arising from operating with these new technologies. Again, develop infrastructure for these new technologies and apply the new skills for continuous learning. what are these new emerging technologies that we should be upgrading ourselves and our energy saving devices like PBCF, frequency control pumps, whereby these are energy saving devices where, let's say your vessel is operating in a winter zone or in Europe, let's say. The pumps will automatically reduce their RPM based on the demand of cooling within the engine room or within the system. I don't want to go too technically. Okay, shaft generator, they are not new, but we know how they work. They're utilizing the torque, the power of the main engine shaft to create electrical energy from mechanical energy and then utilize the vessel. For the performance, we are looking into the hull and propeller monitoring. By doing so, we are not only improving the performance of the hull, reducing the resistance, and therefore gaining more speed with lesser fuel, but also we are protecting the environment not to transport invasive species from one location to another. With the routing and voyage optimization, whereby we are looking into optimizing the voyage and making sure we are on the best routing going from point A to point B. What are the new alternative fuels are we looking at? You have LNG, biofuels, methanol, ammonia, LPG, ethanol, hydrogen, and nuclear. LNG is nothing new, but we have the up and coming, which is methanol and ammonia. Now, just to give you a little bit of background on this, methanol is mature. Methanol have proven running hours already. It's just a matter of replicating the experience, replicating the experiences for the industry to adopt. As you may have noticed that the majority of the orders recently, in the past few months, have been towards methanol-powered engine, surpassing the LNG orders already. Now, we are not looking too far that ammonia will also come in. However, on the safety aspect of it, it's a little bit too far because the technology itself is not yet mature. And even the regulatory framework is not yet mature. So right now, immediate goal is to look into LNG, biofuels, and methanol. Mid-term goals, long-term goals, most likely ammonia, nobody knows. Okay, now, why did I put IGF code here? The industry only have for the new fuels, we only have IGF basic and advanced mandatory courses as per STCW. Do we think this is enough? Absolutely not. We found that the hard way. We were the first vessel to run a methanol-powered vessel, and we had the basic and advanced IGF mandatory courses. It was talking mostly about LNG, and we were running a methanol-powered vessel. Technology-wise, they're totally different. So it was a paperwork exercise. Okay. Now we have to do something about it to make sure that the training that we are paying is worth it. No. Not only we have to train our crew, we have to train our short team, and we have to train our trainers. How do we do that? We have to replicate, we have to share the knowledge. Like what we do in Green Marine, our advocacy is to share our hard-earned experience, actual hard-earned experience running methanol dual fuel vessels to all these new orders. We are catering all the clients to help them train their shift staff as well as their short team, even their trainers, to make sure that they won't experience the same hardship that we experienced when we first ran a methanol-powered engine almost a decade ago. As a conclusion, the maritime industry is at a pivotal moment in history. It's facing mounting pressure from regulator, consumer, and public opinion to reduce emissions to operate sustainably. To navigate these challenges successfully, the industry is embracing technological advancement, implementing sustainable practices, in forging partnership to chart more environmental responsible course for the future. The path to sustainability is not only an ethical imperative but also a strategic opportunity for those willing to embrace the change. Thank you.